So a number of years ago, I used to work at a grocery store deli when I was around the age of 2021. And back then, in that kind of job, people were very disrespected. They were dismissed. They were treated like they were disposable because the managers knew that the turnover rate was so high that for every person who quits or gets fired, there would be someone there to replace them, in some cases, perhaps even in the same day. And I am going to cover jobs in this video, but this is exactly what dating feels like and has felt like for some time, where there is constant disrespect with no shame because they know that for every man who opts out, there's going to be someone there who still plays the game, who still takes the disrespect for a variety of reasons, whatever that might be. But ask yourself, what is going to happen when there isn't someone there to take the disrespect, like with this grocery store deli, for example? When the turnover rate ceases to exist and there's not someone there to replace that person who quits or who gets fired, the deli's going to shut down. They're not going to have any employees. Just like with the dating market. For every man that leaves, if there's no more men participating, and these women's sense of ego in some cases, really, false sense of ego in some cases, which, again, there are men who are also responsible for inflating that too, which I'm going to cover. When that ego ceases to be uplifted, it's going to crumble. When there is no more male validation and attention, it is going to crumble. A perfect example, a couple of days ago, I was out at a car show with a buddy of mine. And here in Western Washington, we're starting to approach kind of the 3 to 4 months out of the year where it is sunny out. So things like that are starting to open up, these kind of outdoor activities. But as we were walking around the car show, looking at the hot rods and classic cars, he had pointed out a woman who he had seen there that he mentioned he saw on the dating apps some time back. And this woman did have a kid with her. He told me that she was around the age of 40 and that she was a single mother. Now, that's not the part that stood out because you've seen, when I used to use dating apps, I saw plenty of single mothers on there. But he had said that she had in her little kind of description there in her profile these requirements as to what she wanted in her ideal, if that even exists, ideal man. Saying that he needed to be at least 6'2", that he needed to make at least $250,000 a year, and along with these other just very outlandish requirements, which, to no surprise, she's still single, right? There was no man with her. And you have to ask yourself, with all these things, right? If she was looking for someone like that, number one, she knows that person would not be on a dating app. If they even exist at all, they wouldn't be on a dating app. They wouldn't be at a singles event. When I hear about that kind of stuff and when I see that kind of stuff, what it tells me is they're just looking to either make men feel bad and belittle them, like they're not good enough, or they're just searching for attention and validation and men that are going to try to prove themselves to her, that are going to try to pedestalize her. Now, earlier in that day, and I want to make this analogy because it's comparable here, but earlier in that day, I was at a video game store, and I was doing some shopping for some old PlayStation games for my little brother, for some old PS3 games, and those games that used to be $60 back in 15 plus years ago were now $5, $3, even $1 in some cases, and you can't charge a $60 price tag on a game that old, on a game that's out of its prime, on a game that is not a relevant system anymore, that's not mass produced anymore, right? Now, when it used to be the current generation and it had this $60 price tag, but nowadays you can't charge a $60 price tag on a $1 game that is 15 plus years old. Just like how this woman who was around 40 years old, who's a single mother, expecting all these things, wanting these kind of requirements, thinking that she's entitled to some man that quite frankly does not exist, and then wanting celebrity treatment. It's absolutely wild to me. And even the whole thing with social media dating apps, this kind of dismissiveness towards people in general. I think it's important to understand for every like, every swipe, every view is a person with a lifelong story. With loss, with grievance, with success. That's a person with a lifelong story. People have seemed to forget that. It's sad. Because so many men, I think nowadays, and with jobs, with family, even in some cases, with dating certainly, feel like they're treated as disposable and transactional, not as a person, not with respect, not with decency. And on the subject of jobs, I was talking to someone a while back who is a single father who is working 16 hours a day to care for his kids, which, again, I'll put this up front. Any man in that position who is working to support his family, whether it's someone with an elderly parent who's ill, with kids that they're supporting, working hard work, 16-hour shifts. On behalf of everyone out there, I want to say thank you, because those people are heroes and they go unrecognized, almost like the voiceless. They go unrecognized. There's so many good men right now, packing grocery stores, working overnight, doing security work while people are sleeping, who go totally unnoticed. And I can't help but think these are the men that for some reason are invisible to a lot of women. Because, I'll put it up front. There's a variety of factors. I'm not going to say social media and dating apps are 100% the cause in all this. The issues with friendships, the issues with dating. But it sure is a big part, right? There's this saying that men are attracted to what they see with their eyes and women are attracted to what they hear with their ears. The saying went something like that. I'm probably messing it up. But nowadays, it seems like women are in love with what they see on their phones. Women are in love with what they see on their phones. And I'll tell you something right now. Even when it comes to relationships, wanting to post pictures with their man, with their boyfriend. Trying to flaunt and trying to compare. And I think even female viewers in this video would agree with this. When it comes to friendships among women, there's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of envy. There is a lot of gossip. And I've even heard women say this directly in comments and stuff like that, where female friendships have been like that for pretty much as long as they can remember. Whereas now you have male friendships becoming like that, becoming this constant contest, right? When I used to go to Greece when I was younger, I remember there was this couple older women who were in their 80s, and they were bickering about who makes the best pies and whose kids are more successful, again, kind of comparing and stuff like that. But that's always been kind of more normal among women, I would say. Even look at all the shows that women watch, these kind of gossip, drama, and stuff like that, right? Whereas with men, there used to be a sense of brotherhood, a sense of camaraderie. And you don't see that anymore. You see a lot of the jealousy, the envy, the gossip. And I'll tell you something, too, when it comes to things like jealousy. Because I've heard people that will try to argue that these things are kind of natural emotions, that just human nature. Now, we all get those kind of temptations. Don't get it wrong. I agree. Things like jealousy, anger, envy, a plethora of different temptations. We get them. Now, it's one thing to get those temptations. It's another thing to act on them. It's another thing to act on them and be the one who is trying to belittle other people, right? Being the one who is jealousy, trying to really just sabotage, like I've seen in some cases, their friends, people in their circle. There's a big difference. There's a very big difference. And really, when it comes to temptation, I mean, my whole public school experience was me getting out of there resentful, angry, bitter, with a chip on my shoulder. Now, could I have taken that on people? Sure. When I was a lot younger and more immature, I did, quite frankly. I was very angry and troubled, like a lot of young boys are, which is very sad. But you need to realize those temptations and realize them for what they are, and don't act on them, is what I would say. Like, speaking of friendships and stuff too, I was out with a few people. Actually, this is one of the first times in a while that I've gone to kind of a social gathering setting with people that I don't really know. It was after a jiu-jitsu class. Someone who, good dude, he's from Greece, and we've talked a little bit. Of course, we have that in common, being that my father's side of the family is Greek. But he invited me to go to this Mexican restaurant after jiu-jitsu class, and I went and joined him and met these 8 to 10 people that I've never met before in my life, but good to kind of get to know them and stuff like that. Now, what stood out to me and where it kind of went south was I observed it with my own two eyes. Mid-conversation, I see two people having across the table. While one guy's talking, looking at this guy in the eye, he starts pulling out his phone and scrolling. The guy keeps talking. He's like acting like, oh, yeah, just very dismissive and rude. I don't even know if people realize it in some cases. But when I saw that, I'm like, dude, there's a real problem. Now, if it's an emergency, hey, I have to take this phone call, it's important. Emergency text or something like that. But if you're just scrolling while someone's trying to have a conversation with you, that is the problem. The dismissiveness, the rudeness. And understand something, I'll hold men and women accountable on that aspect, right? And even with that too, I want to make a point here, because the time that I'm recording this is the evening of Mother's Day. And some of us were blessed to be able to spend that day with our mother. Some of us not. I saw someone who had mentioned something where his mother had passed away some time ago, and it was very hard on him. But I want to make a point here. For any of us who have our mother in our lives, or for who have a daughter perhaps, or a sister, when I talk about the way a lot of women act in dating nowadays, when I talk about the entitlement, the rudeness, the dismissiveness, the way women even dress a lot of the time, would you want your mother taking part in that? Would you want your daughter or your sister taking part in that? The answer, if you have your head on straight, is quite frankly no. Quite frankly no. So when people call this out, understand it comes from a good place. Because I don't want to see things fall apart like the way they are now. But they are falling apart. They are falling apart. People being more rude and disrespectful. And again, here in Seattle, there's always been the Seattle freeze. But it was never this bad growing up. It was just not this bad. My mom earlier today was at a grocery store getting some stuff for Mother's Day. We had dinner with the family, which was very pleasant. But there was someone at Fred Meyer, which, for anyone who's not familiar, here in the Pacific Northwest, it's a kind of a department grocery store, essentially like a Target or a Walmart. And she had asked him if he was done with his cart, and he very rudely was like, oh, she said that he had said something very rude and very passive-aggressive, right? Typical to Seattle, passive-aggressive, but very rude and very passive-aggressive. And I'm thinking to myself, my mom she had just turned 60. People being rude to women, elderly women like that, right? Someone's mother. In a case where it warrants respect. Now, I'm not talking about some woman on a dating app who acts like she's some celebrity, right? Any one of us in that position, seeing your own mom being disrespected, if I was there, you wouldn't be okay with that. So with that, I want to make it clear that when women act in ways that are not respectable and men don't respect them, don't be surprised. And understand that these men will respect respectable behavior in the relationship, in the family. They will defend that. But they're not going to sit there and look at the dating market. Look at, oh, I'm almost 40 years old with all this baggage and a single mother with multiple kids, but you need to take me and you need to be this and 6'2". No man is going to take that seriously or respect that. They're just not. They're just not. Like, I'm driving around earlier today, I see $6.50 gas at some of these things. Do you think we have time? We don't have time. We don't have time for drama. We don't have time for games. We just don't. But either way, what's happening is not normal. I'll tell you something right now. What I thought was walking away initially was really not walking away at all. It was walking towards something. Walking towards peace. Walking towards solitude. Walking away from all this. And I totally understand why so many men are doing it. Why, like I've talked about, but why a lot of men who just want to go to some forge and have a dog with them, or just want to have their family with them, they don't want to take part in this anymore. Because the disrespect, the rudeness, the dismissiveness with no shame has become far too common. Far too common. And, people talk about what men want, what women want. Understand something. Like I've said in a video before, what men have wanted in a relationship has relatively remained the same. Men will date within their own leagues, relatively within their own leagues in terms of physical looks. And if a woman has loyalty, honesty, they're not even very picky. They're just not. Most men I know are not picky when it comes to things like that. When it comes to looks, they're not superficial like that. I don't think, I'll put it this way, I don't think you're going to see a man's dating app profile who's going to have a minimum height requirement, who's going to have a minimum income requirement, who's going to have all these things. You're not going to see that. Because we're looking past the things that are superficial. We're looking past the things that are material. We're looking past those things. You know, I think people are just done with all the surface level stuff. They're done with it. They're just done. Again, this applies to a lot more than dating. This really is a whole lot of it that men are done with. And, you know, that's really the only way to put it, guys. But as always, I appreciate you for viewing the video. Hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.